staying ahead in the blockchain space. It could feel like you're constantly running, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
You
so
finally feel like you understand one big development, and suddenly there are five more things demanding your attention.
totally.
Uh,
So today we're diving deep into a project that's tackling, well, a really crucial piece of the puzzle. It's about making rollups, which are already a key scaling solution even better.
Exactly. I mean, rollups are already doing a lot of the heavy lifting for scaling Ethereum, but, to really hit mass adoption, we need to push them further, make them more efficient, more secure, more adaptable.
And that apparently is where AltLayer comes into the picture. We've gone through the materials you shared, and it gives a pretty comprehensive look at what they're building.
Right.
For those of you who sent in your research, you'll know we're exploring a protocol specifically designed to enhance these existing rollup technologies. We've got info on AltLayer's purpose, the tech, their ALT token, and a look at their roadmap.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We want to really get to grips with AltLayer. What is it? How does it actually work? And maybe most importantly, why should you care? Why might it be significant in the crypto landscape?
Let's jump in.
All right, so what is AltLayer? What are they bringing to the table?
Okay, so at its heart, AltLayer is this decentralized protocol. Its main job is to make it easier to launch rollups, both the standard kind and this new type they call restaked rollups.
Uh-huh.
And it's important to stress they're not trying to reinvent rollups from scratch.
Right.
Instead, it's designed to work with the big established frameworks like OP-Stack, Arbitrum Orbit, Polygon CDK, ZK Stack.
So it slots into the existing ecosystem.
Exactly. It's like an add-on layer, an enhancement layer that brings new capabilities.
And that leads us right to their big idea, these restaked rollups. This seems to be the real engine behind their approach.
Yeah, that's the core innovation mentioned in the sources.
What feels potentially groundbreaking here isn't just borrowing security, it's this idea of maybe creating a more interconnected security layer across different rollups. That could, reduce the risk if one specific rollup has a problem. It kind of changes how you think about trust in this modular world.
Definitely. And the way they do it is by plugging into EigenLayer's restaking mechanism.
Right, so maybe a quick refresher for anyone who needs it.
Sure. EigenLayer basically lets people who've staked Ether, locked it up to help secure Ethereum, to restake that same ETH, to secure other protocols or services.
Okay.
AltLayer taps into this. Rollups launched using their platform can get extra security from this pool of restaked ETH. The idea is this extra economic muscle, borrowed from Ethereum's own security, makes the individual rollup much stronger.
Precisely. And the benefits aren't just about security, though that's huge. Your sources suggest restaked rollups also get better decentralization, potentially smoother interoperability between chains.
Meaning they can talk to each other more easily.
Yeah, potentially. And also something called crypto economic fast finality.
Okay, what's that in simple terms?
Think of it like getting transaction confirmation much faster. Instead of waiting ages, there's a big economic penalty for anyone trying to mess with a recent transaction, so it feels final quicker with stronger guarantees. Almost like the security you get on Ethereum itself, but faster for the rollup.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the concept. Now, every ecosystem needs fuel, right? Let's talk about the ALT token.
Right, the native utility token. It has a few specific jobs.
First up, it's used as an economic bond. Apparently, ALT tokens will be staked alongside those restaked assets we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where it gets interesting. If there's any malicious behavior on a rollup secured this way, both the restake assets and the ALT tokens can be slashed. Take it away.
Which is a pretty strong deterrent, you'd think. Don't mess around or you lose your stake.
Exactly. So that's one key role. What else?
Well, it's also for governance. ALT holders get to vote on decisions about the protocol's future, its direction, standard governance stuff.
Okay. Then there's protocol incentivization. Basically, rewarding the operators, the people running the nodes and services within AltLayer, for keeping things running smoothly.
And finally,
Protocol fees. If you're using services within the AltLayer network, you pay for them using ALT tokens. Covers the internal costs.
right, so economic bond, governance, rewards, and fees. Seems pretty integrated. The info you provided also had some tokenomics details as of January 17th, 2024.
Yeah, the total supply is capped at 10 billion ALT.
And when it listed, the circulating supply was about 1.1 billion, so at what, 11%?
Around that, yeah, 11%. We also saw they raised $22.8 million in private sales.
selling about 18.5% of the total supply in those rounds.
At prices of 0.008 and 0.01 per ALT initially.
And quite a chunk, 500 million ALT or 5% was allocated to the Binance launch pool.
Right, so clear uses for the token within the platform, that's usually a good sign. Okay, let's move on to the actual products AltLayer offers. Your sources mentioned three main ones under this Restaked Rollups banner, plus something really interesting called ephemeral rollups. Where should we start? Maybe Vital.
Sure, VITAL. It stands for Actively Validated Service, or AVS. Think of it as a verification layer.
Okay, doing what exactly?
Its main job is to check the blocks and the state transitions that the rollup sequencer commits. So the sequencer processes transactions, puts them in blocks, and Vital watches. If the operator is running Vital, spots something fishy, an inconsistency, or potential fraud.
We can raise a flag.
Exactly. They can trigger a fraud-proof challenge.
So Vital is like an independent referee keeping an eye on the rollup's integrity.
Pretty much. Then you have MACH. This seems aimed directly at that finality issue we mentioned. Rollups can sometimes take a while to feel truly final.
Right, the settlement delay.
MACH is designed to speed that up. It lets operators restake Ethereum-based assets specifically to back up claims about the rollup's current state.
So more economic weight behind the state being correct?
Yes. It provides a stronger, faster guarantee that the state is legit and won't be rolled back. Leads to much quicker finality for the users.
Okay, so MACH, faster, more confident finality. Got it. What's the third one? Squad.
Squad tackles sequencing. That's the process of ordering transactions within the rollup.
Which is crucial, obviously.
Very. And Squad's goal is decentralized sequencing backed by economics. The problem with just having one single sequencer.
It's a single point of failure.
That's one issue, yeah. Liveness concerns, if it goes down, the rollup stops. But also, a single sequencer can potentially exploit its position, like through MEV extraction, or charging high fees rent-seeking.
Right, makes sense.
So by decentralizing the sequencing job with Squad and giving participants economic incentives to behave well, AltLayer aims to make sequencing more resilient and fair.
Okay, Vital for checking, MECH for speed, Squad for fair ordering. That covers the core restaked rollup services. Now let's talk about these ephemeral rollups. That name really stands out.
Yeah, they are quite interesting. The basic idea is pretty cool. Imagine you're a dApp developer and you know you're about to have a huge surge in activity, maybe a big NFT mint or a game launch.
Okay.
Instead of clogging up a general purpose rollup or layer one, you could use AltLayer to quickly spin up your own dedicated application-specific rollup. It's still secured by the main layer one, like Ethereum.
But it's just for your app.
Exactly. You use it for that high demand period. Then, once the surge is over, you settle the final state back onto the main layer one, and you can essentially, well, dispose of the ephemeral rollup.
Huh. So it's like renting a private high-speed lane just when you need it.
That's a good analogy, yeah. And the sources say these aren't just theoretical, they're live and have been used quite a bit already.
For things like NFT mints and games, he said.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty impressive, actually. Like, the Audi Mint had over 64,000 participants. They ran a series called Altitude IIV, with participation ranging from just under 200,000 up to nearly 500,000. There was a 2048 game on an ephemeral rollup that did 235 million transactions, with almost 500,000 players. Loot Royale saw 134,000 game rooms created. Cellular minted 1.4 million NFTs on one.
Oh, okay. Okay, so they've definitely seen some real use. That's significant.
Definitely shows there's demand for that kind of temporary, dedicated scaling. It's important to mention, though, while these ephemeral rollups are live, Vital, MACH, and Squad are still on the private testnet.
Right, still being tested and refined before a wider release.
Exactly.
Okay, that gives us a good picture of the tech. Let's zoom out a bit. What about the token distribution and the roadmap?
Yeah.
The sources laid out the allocation for the 10 billion ALT tokens.
Yeah, across the usual categories. Binance Launch Pool, the team, investors, advisors, protocol development, ecosystem and community funds, and a treasury.
Standard stuff. And critically, there's a token release schedule mentioned.
Right, which is important. It means the tokens unlock gradually over time, not all at once. Helps manage supply and potential price volatility. It's pretty standard practice for responsible projects.
Good point. Okay, roadmap. It looks like they weren't just starting out recently. The sources mentioned milestones from 2022 and 2023.
Yeah, things like those NFT mints on ephemeral rollups we talked about, launching their rollup as a service or RAIS platform.
Basically, tools to help people launch rollups easily.
Right, and adding support for Arbitrum Orbit and Polygon CDK. And then, late 2023, they formally announced the whole Restaked Rollups concept.
So, building momentum. What about now, 2024?
The first quarter looks packed. Lots of testnet activity, integrating with Arbitrum Orbit, OP-Stack, ZK-Stack, and testing them with different data availability layers, Celestia, Espresso, Igenda, Avail.
Testing combinations.
Exactly. Plus, testnet launches for Vital and MACH, initially with OP-Stack, and of course the TGE, the token generation event, and their Season 1 airdrop for early users.
Okay, Q1 is busy. What about Q2?
Plans include testnet for Polygon CDK integration, then the mainnet launch for Vital and MACH with OP-Stack support. That's supposed to align with EigenLayer's mainnet launch for their AVSs.
Timing things together. Makes sense.
They also plan to introduce ALT staking for these restaked rollups in Q2, and another testnet phase for Vital and MCH, but this time with Arbitrum Orbit.
And looking further ahead, Q3.
The roadmap mentions adding support for non-EVM rollups, so rollups not based on the Ethereum virtual machine, and then the mainnet launch for Vital and MACH with Arbitrum Orbit support, again timed with EigenLayer's AVS mainnet.
It's definitely an ambitious schedule, lots of moving parts, especially with the EigenLayer dependencies.
For sure. It shows a clear plan, though. Now, beyond the tech roadmap, what about actual adoption, partnerships, business development? That's always crucial.
Absolutely. The sources did mention some interesting collaborations. Research partnerships with EigenLayer themselves, obviously, on Restaked Rollups and their data availability solution, EigenSia, and also with RASC0 working on ZK fault proofs.
Okay, research collabs are good. What about actual users, clients?
Yeah, this was interesting. Cometh, a game studio, is building their game Cosmic Battle using an AltLayer rollup. Apparently, Cometh has worked with big brands before, so that's a notable choice.
Gaming seems like a key target then.
It appears so. There's also a partnership with Double Jump Tokyo, another big name in blockchain gaming. In Japan, they've worked with giants like Sega, Bandai, Ubisoft.
Wow, okay.
This partnership helps game devs launch rollups that settle on Oasis, which is a blockchain built specifically for games.
That's a strong signal from the gaming world. Any others?
Yep. Injective is using the Restaked Rollup framework for their decentralized order book chain. Avive is integrating it into their geosocial protocol. Dairy Protocol is launching an app-specific rollup for their derivatives platform.
Diverse use cases.
Very. Automata is using AltLayer for scalability in their modular attestation layer, basically verifying complex computations on-chain. And Allo is building a real-world asset, RWA, rollup, connected to a fund management platform that handles over $1 billion in assets.
Okay, that's quite a list. From gaming to DeFi to RWAs, it suggests the tech has broad appeal.
It really does. It's not just one niche.
Yeah.
And one last point on adoption, sort of community size.
Always a good indicator of interest.
The sources mentioned pretty large numbers on Twitter and Discord. Over 500,000 followers on Twitter and around 660,000 members on Discord.
That's substantial engagement. Shows people are definitely paying attention.
Right. So let's try to wrap this up. If we synthesize everything from this deep dive, AltLayer's main goal seems to be boosting rollup capabilities, primarily using this novel restaking approach via EigenLayer.
Yeah, enhancing security, finality, decentralization.
Through their core products. Vital for verification, MACH for speed, Squad for sequencing, and those live ephemeral rollups for temporary scaling needs.
And the ALT token plays several key roles: staking, governance, rewards, fees.
And importantly, they seem to be executing. Active development shown by the roadmap and real partnerships across different sectors already.
Definitely. I mean, their whole strategy of building on top of existing rollup tech and plugging into EigenLayer's restaking, it feels like a smart way to potentially offer more flexible, secure, high-performance rollups without starting from zero. It could really help enable that next wave of dApps.
Agreed. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. We're seeing this rapid evolution in modular blockchains, right? And restaking is becoming a bigger and bigger theme. With platforms like AltLayer making it potentially easier to deploy these enhanced, specialized rollups, what kind of new applications or user experiences could this unlock?
Yeah, what becomes possible when you can spin up a secure, high-performance, maybe even temporary blockchain tailored exactly to your app's needs? What new kinds of interactions or decentralized systems might emerge from that flexibility?
Something to think about. Hopefully, this deep dive has given you a solid base for understanding AltLayer and keeping an eye on how this part of the crypto space develops.